other than P and calcium in the teeth and all that. There will be something better out of this. How does the baby pick up on that? One possibility is you look at the structure of DNA, and DNA, almost all the DNA in the body is labeled as junk DNA in the medical book, junk DNA. DNA that does not lead to protein synthesis, therefore it's not worth anything. Now that takes a lot of hubris to say that this special thing, DNA, that we all depend on, 95% of it is junk, because it doesn't do the one function that is not again. The funny thing about number one is all this DNA, and you put it in a spiral. There are a tremendous number of coils of DNA in the body. And if you want to build an old-fashioned radio transmitter receiver, that's what you do. You have a lot of parallel coils. Maybe that's the way the baby can pick up energy like that. Every baby would have a slightly different frequency. And these things are all just possibilities you should check. Now, the other problem with acupuncture and Western science is that acupuncture books are written more or less like creationism. They're not intentionally so. Acupuncture books in traditional China, you had a book for each topic. So there are general philosophical books, and then there are particular things. Acupuncture were technique books, so they were not burdened with being exclusive. Actually, if you're going to study Chinese medicine, you need to study other things that were considered textbooks at that time, and not just assume that you're getting some balance of Chinese medicine without doing that. Those textbooks are easily accessible. It's not difficult. But creationism says that we're ignoring the theory of evolution, right? We're not only going to talk about an acupuncture book never talks about acupressure. It doesn't talk about qigong. It doesn't talk about healing by intention. It doesn't talk about anything like that. Oh no, this is a unique thing to have this licensable tool. And why is it that this whole balancing system exists? If it had no meaning in animals, no meaning in plants, no meaning in anything, it's just waiting for an American acupuncture school. That's what the book says, because they quote technique books and they make them into a textbook, and then aren't willing to make the textbook really a textbook. Textbooks give context. They give beginnings. They give a basis of what goes on. Acupuncture books don't. They don't, not because they don't know a lot of these things, because they're afraid, and they don't. The same reason the medical books skip Venus return. And what happens is that students are limited. And if you don't get beyond it, you're limited. Now, we had a colleague in Nada, and he lives in Budapest, in Hungary. And I met him. He was the acupuncturist to the Prime Minister, which didn't mean very much. He had 10 needles in a tinfoil thing, because that's all I had. And many stories behind that. Anyway, one thing he did, he was a physicist, and they started to do acupuncture on plants because they wanted a method of the plant growing faster, and if you could use a laser to stimulate the plant, a lot of things might happen. So he did a number of experiments where you use one of these point finders that just determines different levels of electrical resistance. And you scan the stem of the plant. And when you find an area of unique lower resistance, which these are obvious areas, then you put the needle in the stem. About 2 seconds later, the tip of the leaf over here gets warm. Then the whole leaf gets warm. You can do that 500 times in a row, and 500 times it happens. And he has all these computer pictures. It's a simple situation. Then you do the obvious experiment, right? You put a needle in part of the stem that is not electrically unique. Nothing happens. He said he did that 100 times. Tired of the whole thing. So now you can not only use the stem, you can use the ground where the roots come up. Put a needle, if you find an electrically unique area there, you put a needle in the ground near where all the little tiny roots spread out, and you can get the same kind of result. Later on, when he went to medical school, he used to test tissue cultures. Have a dish of similar cells, and you find an electrically special area in one side, put a needle in, and you'll find biological changes distal to that, more circulation and temperature or something like that. And I brought him over to the FDA at a Science of Acupuncture research meeting, and he spoke there, and the FDA guy talked to him, and then no one disagreed. It was all quite clear. And the FDA guy said, you won't like this answer. He says, if it's a research on animals and plants, it belongs to the Department of Agriculture, not us. And I told him the obvious thing, well, FDA, you certainly kill a lot of mice to see what's safe. And he agreed, if you're killing the mice, it's not the same as treating the mice. There's a lot of Western medicine uses cells and plants. You learn about these things. Why can't acupuncture do that? What is the problem? I've told this thing lots of times. You see somebody, I have a friend, a Chinese friend, she went right home and tried it. You have a little pot with 3 or 4 plants. You give treatments to one of the plants and not the other. The one treatment you gets bigger. It's easy. The issue isn't easy. The issue is if you can see a different situation. Now there is, let's see. Now one thing I would certainly say, because I want to open up for questions at this point in a little bit, is you have, when you look at acupuncture training and so on, you have to separate the acupuncture training from herbal training. It's extremely different things. And much that's wrong with acupuncture training is it's just been herbalized. Herbal training is a different situation. Acupuncture training, this is touching and movements like learning dance and learning communication and so on like that. Very hard to lecture on, and very hard to have theories about. But I'll tell you one thing. I taught in one of the early acupuncture schools. It takes 2 to tango, because you would give talks somewhat on these directions. The students didn't want it. They didn't want it. Will that be on the test? I'm serious. Good schools, 20, 30 people in the audience, no question. Much of the structure you see in acupuncture schools is exactly what the students wanted. Now, a lot of the teachers didn't know any better, and they were hard hardly expert themselves. They were